Welcome to Murder with the Missus. I'm Darren.
And I'm Amy. And today we're going to tell you about Peggy McGuire.
Don't forget to smash that like button and go and check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and Facebook. Like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to tell your friends.
We were in Eufaula, Oklahoma not too long ago, so I decided to see if there were any outstanding cases in that area. I'm not going to lie, sometimes I forget details after hearing so many cases over the years, but then something sparks my memory. This is one of those cases. I remember hearing about this one, probably in the news, but I saw that this still hasn't really gone anywhere, so we're going to talk about it. Peggy was outdoorsy, and normally when you hear that, you think of hunting and fishing, maybe camping, which Peggy liked to do all those things, but she also baled hay and showed livestock, very common stuff for this area. Her mom said, when she would smile, you couldn't help but smile too. She was so thoughtful and caring, a kind-hearted person. Her cousin and best friend Elizabeth said that she was a sweet soul with a big heart who cared about everyone. As a sophomore in high school, she began to date Thomas McIntosh. They shared a love for country life, but other than that, they were described as opposites. Peggy was outgoing and very social, while Thomas was described as awkward, rude, and unsocial.
Well, sometimes, opposites attract.
That's true. That they do. But their relationship was not good, according to those close to them. Betty says there were multiple times that Thomas busted the windows out of her car or smashed her doors in for things like talking to another boy. One day, when the couple came back to school from their lunch break, Peggy had a bloody nose, and she had Elizabeth take her to the emergency room. According to Peggy, Thomas had got mad and backhanded her with a pistol. This continued after high school. At one point, a protective order was filed against Thomas, but Peggy always went back to him. In July of 2007, Peggy gave birth to their son, Ethan. And then in late 2013, Thomas got a job in Indiana, and the three of them moved there. Sources say that Peggy just wanted to be a family. On December 18th, things got worse. Thomas ended up strangling Peggy in front of Ethan, who was just 6 years old at the time. And this flipped a switch inside of her. Peggy and Ethan came back home to Oklahoma, and Thomas was charged with felony strangulation, felony domestic battery, and misdemeanor interference in the reporting of a crime. There was also a no contact order issued.
Well, that's good. I mean, she's back home with her family, and he's in jail, right?
Right. But as you see in a lot of domestic violence situations, that didn't last long. Peggy wanted Ethan to grow up in a house with a mom and a dad.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. Listen, guys, I'm sorry. Let me pause here for a second. You have to really think about that.
What is best for you
What's
and your
best
child?
for your child? Yes. If the
just
dad or the mom is a shitty person, they're not doing you any favors.
If the dad is just a deadbeat,
or very physically violent.
If he's very physically violent towards the mom, then that's not the right fucking case to have a family with.
This is what your kid is going to see as okay behavior, and it is not.
And eventually that kid is going to grow up thinking that that's okay.
It happens a lot, yeah.
And, you know, the whole thing is that there is plenty of guys out there who can't have kids.
And there's men and women that will step into the role.
Without even,
without blinking an eye.
Without blinking an eye. They'll step right in and they'll be like, you know what? Don't care if you're not my blood.
We see it a lot.
Yep.
We see it a lot. And we would probably be those kind of people, but we'll be together forever. But we would be those people too. You love me, you love my kids. And if you don't, bye.
Yeah.
So there's options, guys. I would rather have two separated, happier parents than two together, miserable parents. So think about what is developing in your child's brain at this age.
And that's the whole thing. It's just like, there's a lot of families that are just constantly fighting with the opposites.
Yeah, very true. But I get it. I get that you want them to have a mom and a dad, but it doesn't have to be a bio mom and dad.
Nope.
Just saying. Okay. Now, them getting back together didn't mean that they had to be in a relationship. So the charges in Indiana were dropped, and Thomas moved back to Oklahoma too. The three did live together, but Peggy and Thomas were just co-parenting, according to Peggy. She said they had an understanding that they were not together, and they were free to date other people.
I can't see someone like him sticking to that agreement.
Absolutely not. I mean, if he's busting up her car just because she had a conversation.
If he's smacking her in the face with a fucking pistol.
Well, I mean, remember he was smashing her windows and car doors because she talked to another man.
Yeah.
I can't see him letting her date another man and be fine with it. Even if they're together, not together, it doesn't matter. That's how these people work.
Yeah.
You're their property. You're not their spouse or anyways. But if agreeing to that was the only way that she would let him back into the house, I'm sure he would agree to whatever she said. Because once you're in there, you can do whatever you want, right? But Peggy had decided that she was also going to go into nursing. And she did. She passed the boards and became an LPN in June of 2015. She started working at a nursing home and she was talking to a man named Richard from Texas. Things were looking up. But Thomas was still doing Thomas shit. Invading her space, just being Thomas. So she had started slowly moving her stuff from their house to her mom's. Things that he wouldn't really notice was missing. By November, she had decided to go ahead and make the move, like to actually move her and Ethan into her mom's apartment. She had told her work that she couldn't be put on the schedule that weekend because she would be moving. At the beginning of that week, so Monday, November 16th, after coming off a double shift, she got off work and picked up Ethan to drop him off at school. On her way home, she called her stepdad, Donnie, to talk about rebuilding the back deck on her house.
But I thought she was moving out.
Right.
That weekend. Why are they talking about working on the house if she's not going to be living in it?
I wondered that too. Like if you're planning on moving out, why would you be doing work on that house? It's just, I mean, it's been reported like this over and over and nobody's questioned it. So he was having her get measurements for him that day and she was going to call him back when she got them. And she had told her work not to call her in on Tuesday because Richard was coming up from Texas Monday evening and she would be spending time with him. But Tuesday morning, Elizabeth did call her and it was going to voicemail. Elizabeth thought that maybe she was with Richard at his hotel, but her spidey senses were also tingling. She went by Peggy's house. Peggy's truck wasn't there. Her nursing bag was gone and alarm bells were ringing. It was coming up for time for Ethan to get out of school, so since Peggy always handled pickup and drop off, Elizabeth went to the school to wait and see if Peggy picked Ethan up. But Peggy did not. Thomas did.
So who picked up Ethan from school on Monday?
That was another question I had too, and I didn't find that anywhere. But you'd have to assume that it was Thomas since there wasn't any red flags until Tuesday for everybody else. So Elizabeth called Betty and told her that she needed to call the cops. Peggy is reported missing and the family started looking for her. Elizabeth found Richard's phone number and called him to find out that he had never even came to Oklahoma. He was stuck in Texas working. He said he told Peggy that when he talked to her Monday morning. She was back home after dropping Ethan off from school and she was making beef jerky, and that was around 10 a.m. He had to get off the phone with her to take another call, and when he tried to call her back, it went straight to voicemail, and he hadn't talked to her since. He later told the OSBI as well, and we'll get more into their involvement later. Not too long after they started looking for her, her brother found her truck parked at T&J's Ice House, which is a bar off the highway. Her family said that she didn't drink and that they had never heard of her going to this bar. Someone called Thomas and told him that the truck was found, so he showed up at the bar and talked to the police. And he told them that Peggy had run away.
Did the bar have security cameras?
They did.
Good.
Now, it was a cold and rainy night that Monday night into Tuesday morning, so it makes the footage harder to see. But it shows the truck pull in at around 5 a.m. on Tuesday morning. Someone gets out. It looks like they're wearing a hoodie with the hood up, and they just walk away. Now, it's dark, rainy, and the truck is left out by the road pretty far away from the camera, so you can't tell who it is or even if it's a man or a woman. It's just a figure. But her family says it's definitely Thomas. The mannerisms, like him getting out of the car and putting his hands in his pockets, the way he's walking, they are convinced. But the police are not. Allegedly, Ethan told Peggy's family that he and Thomas had drove past the truck, and Thomas had pointed it out, telling Ethan that his mom had ran off with another man, and that's where she left her truck.
So before she was reported missing.
Had to be, because they found her truck pretty quick when they started looking for her. So likely, probably when he was taking him to school that morning, he probably drove past the truck and was like, see that truck? Now, since this can't be proven, supposedly the cops did nothing with this.
So why not ping his phone and see if he was around the area when Ethan says he told him that? to see if they drove past the place between 5 a.m.
Between 5 and when they found the truck?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
I mean, just get a layout where he's been. Of course, he'd probably be one of them guys that like shut off locations and all that crap.
Or something. Now, we'll talk about phone pings in a little bit, but they do not talk about checking into this. Plus, even if they were in the area, they wouldn't be able to prove that Thomas saw the truck or said what he said. It's basically just Ethan's word against Thomas's. And I will also mention that there was a lot of speculation that his family is prominent in the area. His last name is McIntosh, and they live in McIntosh County, so his family has deep roots. I couldn't find anything saying he's actually related to anyone with pull around there, but that doesn't mean that he's not. Either way, local cops weren't very helpful, treating this as if she was just a capable adult who left on her own. But after a couple of weeks, they did call the OSBI to help. So by week 3, the family finally got some official help. But the authorities had wasted the first 2 weeks. Also, supposedly, the local police had told the OSBI that this was a possible homicide case, which is odd, since if they really thought that, you would think they would investigate it that way or investigate it at all.
So if that was Thomas in her truck, did anyone see him walking?
Right.
And was he picked up by someone? And where did he go?
Right. Like, there's people.
Yeah.
The OSBI found out that his grandma lived really close to the bar, within walking distance. They did ping his phone, but Grandma's house is so close to that bar, they couldn't tell which place he was actually at during that time. He was in the area, though. I also couldn't find anything showing if Grandma alibied him. A neighbor in the area, though, said that she was leaving for work around that time that the truck was dropped off, and she said she saw a man walking down the street. When he saw her vehicle, he ducked into the woods. Like, nothing to see here.
I'm imagining that gif of Homer Simpson fading into the bushes.
Right? He's just like,
yeah,
not me. Now let's talk about phones. Peggy's phone pinged at the house on Monday morning when she talked to Richard around 10 a.m., just like he said. And then her phone was turned off and never turned back on. Thomas's phone, at that time, pinged in close proximity to Peggy's phone at that time.
So he heard her on the phone with her boyfriend and he snapped.
That's what they think happened. One of his neighbors say that shortly before noon that day, Thomas was on the tractor with the bucket all the way up in the air and he was going really fast. Even the neighbor thought that he had Peggy in that bucket because no one drives a tractor like that. On December 8th, the OSBI started the search at the house and the 80 acres around it. And this took months. But they found something in the bucket of that tractor that could have either been blood or rust. Being weeks outside in the elements by this time, they found it and took a sample, but it didn't help. Whatever it was had deteriorated, so it couldn't be determined what exactly it was. By the time they searched the house, it had been thoroughly cleaned. Shocker. But they still found trace amounts of blood on a sofa and a utility pail. Also, some gloves in his truck had trace amounts too. But just like the tractor bucket, the samples were inconclusive.
What is Thomas saying about all this?
Well, his lawyer says that there's no evidence Peggy was harmed or that she was murdered. He said Thomas was on that tractor Sunday morning, not Monday, and he was moving hay before the rain came in. That the neighbor was just mixing his days up. He said that Peggy and Thomas were in a relationship at the time, not just co-parenting, and that Peggy would disappear from time to time, so Thomas suspected that she was cheating on him. Then, the lawyer throws in a little nugget that none of the domestic violence allegations were true. There was no evidence of any of it, that he had never been found guilty of anything, and the fact that that strangulation case in Indiana was dropped is proof that it wasn't true.
What about the pistol whipping in school?
Right.
Didn't she go, to the emergency room?
According to Elizabeth, she took Peggy to the ER, but those medical records cannot be located.
What did he say about Ethan saying they showed him in the truck?
He said that it never happened. Thomas says that he only supposedly said that to Peggy's family and no one else, so the family made it up to fit their narrative. And because of the family being so vocal about Thomas's involvement in Peggy's disappearance, Thomas kept Ethan from her side of the family, and the lawsuits started. Thomas moved him and Ethan to live with his mom in another county, and he filed for sole custody of Ethan, saying that Peggy abandoned him. He wanted them to order Peggy to pay child support, child care, medical expenses, all the usual things. But he wanted Betty and the family banned from seeing Ethan at all. So Betty countersued, saying that Peggy was likely dead and at the hands of Thomas. So they worried about Ethan being with him. Plus, they had that history of domestic violence. Thomas filed a separate suit against Betty a month later, saying that she stole 4 calves from him, sold them, and kept the money. She denied all that and said that Thomas knew that these were Peggy's cows, not his. And Thomas did end up dropping his lawsuit for that. In March of 2016, the court ordered that Ethan have a court-ordered representative so that they would have a neutral party working on his behalf. And some report that he was put into foster care, and those records aren't available to the public for good reason. And that makes what happens next even more confusing. On February 22nd of 2021, 13-year-old Ethan was reported missing. He had last been operating an orange Kubota tractor in the Stidham area at 5:45 p.m. The tractor was found on a dirt road east of Highway 9. The search began around 10 p.m. Monday night, and they later found the tractor. Thomas was reported as being cooperative with the Lighthouse Police, but he hadn't been out with the search crews at all. He was reported as wearing a flannel jacket or shirt, ripped blue jeans, muck boots, and glasses. A young man on his way to school on Tuesday morning reported seeing someone walking that was wearing the same clothes, and Ethan was found at 12:45 p.m., sleeping, about 20 miles from where the tractor was found. He was exhausted and dehydrated, but otherwise fine.
I'm glad he was found safe, but
Yeah.
Did they ever find out what happened?
I did not see anything that was ever reported after that. After they found him, it was done. But it's just really weird because supposedly he's in foster care.
Yeah.
But he's out driving a tractor on a dirt road and just takes off walking? Like, why?
That was weird.
Or was he in Thomas's care and he was trying to get away from Thomas? Like, what's happened? I need to know.
Yeah.
Nobody reported. But back to Peggy's case. In February of 2024, so this year, Muskogee County Sheriff's Office got a tip that Peggy's body was wrapped in chicken wire and held down in a pond in Oktaha, which is 20 miles northeast of Eufaula. In April, they pumped some of that pond and even dug up an area where they thought she could be in, but nothing was found. Her family said, "We know that there are a few people who know where she's at, and I hope it eats up their heart. Hopefully one day there will be closure." And that is where we are today.
Well, it's good to see that there's still tips coming in on this case after all these years.
Oh, yeah. It's always good to know because that was several months ago.
Yeah.
Now, if we can just get a little more detail. And why didn't they drain the whole pond? That's what I want to know. They only partially drained it. If you're looking for a body, drain that bitch.
Yeah. You probably only had to drain it so far just to see if anything's in there.
I guess so. I'll give you that.
But, I don't know. I'm just
speculating.
Yeah, just thinking.
But that's it. We haven't had any more current information. Nothing else has been done. There's really no information on where Thomas or Ethan are at this point. Ethan would still be a juvenile, technically, I think. So hopefully he's doing okay. And hopefully when he becomes an adult, he can go see Peggy's side of the family of his own volition.
Well, yeah. And there's nothing stopping him then.
Exactly. So hopefully that all works out. And you never know when someone is finally going to talk. Now, since there's a reward for information that leads to her body being found, that is currently at $150,000.
Wow.
That's a lot of money, people. That's life-changing money for a lot of people.
Especially if it leads to finding the body.
Yeah. Well, most time you can't get a reward up that high, but.
Yeah. So, it's like, don't call in and sit there just throwing random shit out.
They're going to check everything out. But if you actually have information.
You don't get it unless there's something
exactly.
found.
So,
the body has to be found.
Can't just throw darts.
Yeah.
Be like, hopefully they get it. No.
Exactly.
No. If you know something, please call. If you have any information, contact the OSBI at 918-423-6672.
All right. Well, that was it for this one. You guys make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. And get on there and comment and tell us if there's a case that you guys want us to talk about, or message us on Facebook.
Anything.
Just let us know.
Let us know what you want to hear about.
Yep. Till next time.
Bye.